in Musictown, Detroit, recording live. Prepare yourself for a hoppy drive. If you're chilling at home, pop that growler and just kick back for the next 2 hours. It's the end of the week, so here's to the weekend. It's Better on Draft with Rob, Matt, Nick, and Ken.
And we are live, episode number 225, Better on Draft podcast. My name is Ken, and again, we were thinking we might be in studio this week, but as shit continues to hit the fan, we continue to not be in the studio. With that in mind, I want to welcome you all to the show. We're going to go around, see what everyone's drinking. I want to figure out what's going on with Nick first. So, Nick, what's up over there?
You can see that I have a different background, and you might have some background noise. I am at a vacation house north of Battle Creek right now.
I thought maybe you were in prison. So
no, not yet. No, haven't gotten incarcerated yet. Still working on that.
Are you drinking at least?
I am drinking. And Dan.
Of course. There you go.
What
is this? Wait a minute. So, Ken, can you kick him out of this? What's going on?
I mean, this is Michigan Craft Beer Month.
Oh, shit.
This is my meeting room. So
that's terrible. Never
guys.
He's going to kick us.
Yeah, I can kick you guys. Anyway, I haven't had the opportunity to go to any beer stores yet. We just got here to the house and running out of time. So I had a scamper and Bush. It is.
Bush in a can.
I mean,
it is what it is.
For how the weather's going right now, I'm not upset. Like I was at Nick's today in Ypsilanti, and I'm like, I want something low ABV, easy to drink, but I want something really flavorful, and I just could not find anything that really spoke to me. I wound up getting something from One Well, I think, which I'll probably drink later in the show.
I think that my brother and sister-in-law did bring some stuff from Blake, so I might have to go find it and steal some. So, hey, that's Michigan craft.
So I'm breaking the rules a little bit because I wanted to show something off because it's fun if it's on camera and it works. But I've got a Bell's Oberon. And I actually found a gift that I had gotten a lot of you guys, which was this little bottle opener right here. So I should be able to... Oh.
Fail. Good job.
There we go. I have no idea where it went. But
third time's a charm.
Third time's. I didn't want to like smash it and then have it go flying. But so I got myself an Oberon right now. Dan, what are you drinking?
I'm pulling a Nick. I had to. Just kind of what we do now that he started it. I'm drinking a Dragon's Milk from New Holland, of course, out of a Crowler, one of my favorites. And then another one of my favorites, the old Wet Snout Peanut Butter Stout from Sleepy Dog Brewing, the Arizona brewery turned Chicago brewery since they got bought out.
Who'd they get bought out by?
I think two brothers. I'm going to have to double check.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. Let me actually get this back onto me. I got myself, I don't know if you could see, but I made myself a little shrine to Michigan beer over there. And there's my old 1970s, still filled bottles of Stroh's. And I think I got a can of Stroh's Light over there, too. So
should crack one of those.
One day, it might happen. But Wendy, what are you drinking over there? Angie says no.
I would not. I would not.
Learn the value.
So most of you know that the JCs were a really big part of my life. They actually led me to you guys. And I was a member of the Westland area JCs. So when I was at the store the other day, I found Kickstand had a Wild Westie.
Nice.
Which Westie was our nickname. So I bought some for me and some for a couple of other past presidents while I was there.
That's a nice beer.
So that's what I'm drinking.
It is.
It's good. I like it. It's nice and clean. Very refreshing.
Well, as you guys can see on the screen, it's a little bit more like America for the fact that it's 3 men, 3 women, and that's not kind of the reason why we have these guests. So to my on the camera left is Annette. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you've done within the industry?
Hi, everyone. I'm Annette May. I've been in the industry since '95. Starting off, I've done a lot of things in the industry. So my full-time job now, I'm a full-time beer educator. I'm an advanced Cicerone too and a certified sake professional. So I've done a lot of things in the industry except brew. And currently I'm on faculty at Schoolcraft College in Livonia. In our brewing and distillation technology program, I teach sensory evaluation and draft management, which is one of the areas that I specialize in. And, a lot of sort of like things around that too. I work part-time for the Cicerone certification program. I'm a regional instructor, teach their classes, proctor exams, grade exams. Do staff training, do my own classes, teach beer and food pairing extensively, and teach people about sake. So that's, an area that I've only just started to develop. So thanks for having me on. And I'm also part of Fermenta, and I'm drinking Rauch beer. And even though it's in a Schlenkerler glass from Bamberg, this is actually my husband's homebrewed Rauch beer, and it's delicious.
Nice.
Well, I'm hoping maybe next week I might crack open my home brew just to kind of see where it's at 2 weeks after I started bottling it. But
Crack one now.
Crack
one today.
No. I got some beers here. It's not cold anyway, so I want to at least get it cold. So under you we have Angie. Angie, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've done in the industry?
All right, my name is Angie Williams, and my current job is president of Fermenta. I'm actually unemployed because of COVID. Before that, I was actually working at Kickstand. I helped make that delightful Westie that you're drinking, and that's a darn tasty beer. I enjoyed that too. Before that, I started in the industry in the fall of 2010. I was a lawyer.
So under
I didn't
you we
like
have
what
Angie.
I was doing. I quit my job, and so I was also a home brewer, and I didn't totally suck at making home brew. I decided it tasted okay. So I was like, all right, let's see if maybe I can do something in the industry. So I volunteered at Corner Brewery back in the fall of 2010, started working with good old Aaron Stryker on the bottling line. And since then, I've been a Rolling Stone. After that, I went to 51 North. I worked with Adam Beretta there. After that, I was at Griffin Claw.
Now at Kickstand.
Yeah, and after that, I'm forgetting where I was at. I went to Fenton Winery and Brewery for a couple of years. And after that, I was at Witch's Hat. And then most recently was at Kickstand until COVID.
So I'll leave it to the president right now. Why don't you tell us what is Fermenta? We actually had Pauline Knight, I believe was her last name.
Knighton.
I'm sorry?
Knighton.
Okay, I was like 80% there.
Yeah.
We had her on the show talking about Fermenta like 3.5 years ago.
Wow.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about Fermenta again? Refresh the fans about what the program is and the goals.
Yeah. So Fermenta started, it's almost 6 years old now. We started back in 2014, and basically Pauline Knighton, who was with Shorts and still is, and Stacy Roth, who is at Griffin Claw at that time, got together at the Winter Beer Conference, and they just were talking, and they said it'd be really cool to have like the Michigan Brewers Guild is a trade organization for craft beer in Michigan. So these two got together and said, you know what, we should have a trade organization for women who work in the industry in Michigan, because there's a lot of us, we just don't hear each other's stories. We can talk, we can tell stories, we can network, we can get advice. So, like me, I was a lawyer before, and in lawyering, you have 50 million different trade organizations. The young lawyers group, the women's lawyers group, the lawyers who wear purple shirts on Tuesdays group. I mean, everybody had a group for whatever reason. And it's just a good chance to get together and network. So we decided to do that as women. So Stacy approached me because I had that lawyering background, and we said, okay, let's see what we can do. So we all met, we got together after a lot of hard work. We filed 501c3 paperwork. We created an organization, and the goal since the beginning was to create educational opportunities for women in the industry, towards scholarships. And it was kind of like what Pink Boots does, which, Pink Boots is for women in the beer industry across the world. But we wanted to include other areas in craft beverages. So cider, meads, wineries, we wanted to bring it all in. So we created this one group, and we haven't looked back since then. I mean, basically our goal, I can read you our mission statement, which is we're a nonprofit trade group. We're initiated by women committed to education, networking, diversity, and empowerment within the fermented beverage and food industries. And here's a stat for you, and I had Mary look this up today. Since we started, we've given out almost $15,000 in scholarships.
Damn.
I was going to say 13, so that's great.
Very cool.
15.
What?
Yeah, that's in, like 5 years with just five of us.
That's awesome. And I know we've with Schoolcraft being local, obviously we've done our best to try to help out a little bit. We did have a scholarship that 1 year, and I think we kind of slacked a little bit. I think we might need to go back into it.
Well, I'm not judging.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. One of the things in regards to, there it is. In regards to, everybody take a drink. I'm getting more self-conscious of my crutch.
But I'll take a drink.
It's a crutch word. So in your speech world, I see your husband right behind. You can wave, show off that mustache of his. It's a crutch word when I'm trying to get to my next point. What do you think is the hardest way to the reason why it's hard to get women into the industry, bringing them into the production and creation of beer, beverages, fermentation as a whole?
I think, I can just do a couple of things and then switch to you, Angie.
Yeah.
Number one, they're scared to, they may want to, but they're frightened. Number two, they think that they can't do the job. Number three, there's a lot of well, there's more now, but a lot of men go into the industry with science backgrounds, and of course, there's just less women in STEM to sort of consider those areas as well, microbiology and biochemistry and all that sort of thing. So that's my bit. They're frightened. They think they can't lift. I can't lift 50 pounds. I can't even attempt to be the brewer. So that's my take, Angie.
Well, and I think that's part of it, but I think a lot of it's just exposure too. When you ask so many people how they got in the industry or why they got in the industry, it's because they were home brewers and they loved brewing beer on the home brewing level. So when do you think about, like the Detroit Draft Divas and what a great program that is when they participate in Rat Fest and other collaboration brews, and you actually get women in brewing beer and seeing, holy crap, this is really cool. It's like baking. And you know what? I'm one of those people. Look, I'm a short, fat old lady. I can lift 50 pounds, but even if I can't, I can find a tool in any brewery to help me do the job I need to do. And that's the thing. It's education. You got to let people know you can do it. If you want to, you can do it.
And a lot of people are scared and they just think, I couldn't do this, which is not true.
Not at all. So talk to us a little bit about the Schoolcraft real quick, Annette. What is we had Schoolcraft on a couple times. What is your role at Schoolcraft specifically? And then I want you to kind of go into all the side classes that you do with the Cicerone program.
So we have a brewing program. It's a certificate program. It's 25 credit hours. It is 7 classes. You can do it all in 2 semesters, or you can do 1 class at a time. It's totally flexible. So there's 7 classes. I teach 2 of them. I teach a 100 level class called Beer Styles and Sensory Evaluation. So obviously, if you want to become a brewer and you want to learn to brew, you want to brew Weizenbock for your brewery. What's Weizenbock? You've got to know what it is to brew it. So I teach people beer styles. And I also teach people sensory evaluation. So that's part of that class as well. It is crucial to understand what's in your glass so you can better yourself, so you can pick up flaws, so you can produce a consistent product every single time. It's crucial to understand the science behind tasting, how we taste, your ingredients, how they correlate to beer flavor, consistency and how to pick up off flavors. So that's one class. The other class I teach, which is more tied into Cicerone, is beer service and draft management. So again, you can brew as a brewer, Angie, anyone who's a brewer here, even a home brewer, the most perfect beer in the world. Getting it into that customer's glass in exactly the same way is a challenge, because you think about all the steps from the time it leaves the brewery to it ends up in the customer's glass. So besides the fact we're talking about distribution and traveling, and obviously that's not my area, however, getting a draft system in really good shape and perfectly balanced is one huge area. So it's crucial that a brewer understands how to do that. Number 2 is draft maintenance, keeping those lines clean. Crucial to get that beer in good shape. And then the last thing, even with all that, you can still get a beer into a glass that is totally not the way the brewer intended, by a glass that is not beer clean and by an incorrect pour by the beer server. So I teach all these things. So it's 2 separate classes, sensory evaluation, beer styles, and the other class is everything to do with beer service and draft I do teach draft installation. I don't physically teach people how to drill holes and saw things, but I teach them the basis of installing draft systems and what sort you need when and how, what all the components and how it all fits together, blah, blah, blah. And draft maintenance, line cleaning, and a good pour and everything like that.
How many times have we talked about breweries and bars, just regular bars, about trying to keep their lines clean?
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
That, whatever we are about to put down our throats is good. I'm not going to name the place, but this place had Guinness. Guinness is is a favorite of ours, and we don't believe for a second that they clean their lines ever.
What's funny is I know the place you're talking about, but $3 Boombas, I was going.
Yeah.
$3 Boombas at Guinness.
In Michigan, as I'm sure everybody knows, we don't have a law that mandates you do line cleaning.
Wait, there are
That's
laws
too
in
bad.
other states that mandate that?
Yes.
Really?
What states?
Oh, yeah.
Annette,
I
what
used to-
states?
The only one I know for sure is Chicago, because I spent 12 years of my industry career in Chicago. So, and I was managing a bar for the first half of that time. And we had 26 draft lines, which was a big deal in the 90s. And, we
Fantastic
cleaned
bar.
our lines every 2 weeks, and we had to keep a log, and we had people come in and check. But we were doing it.
Not the case anywhere else that I'm willing to bet anymore.
So there's a lot of states. I don't know them all off the top of my head. There's a lot of
Yeah.
states that do mandate it.
So I have a question for both of you. Actually, this is a little below what we were talking about, considering some of the things you teach. But I thought about it when you brought up that women don't have a lot of access or exposure to the industry. And I think back to my wife. She hated beer. She tried IPAs. I was drinking PBR, malt liquor, things like that. So she thought it was disgusting. It took her going to Flagstaff and drinking a barrel-aged stout before she found out she really liked it. And then it just took off from there. What kind of beer or what style of beer brought both of you into the industry? What made you really kind of want to get involved in it?
Go first, Angie.
For me, it was, I'm pretty sure it was either a pale ale or a lower ABV IPA that I had in Oregon. I had never had craft beer before. To me, up to that point, this was the mid 1990s, and up to that point, craft beer was what you said. It was PBR, it was Bud, it was Miller Lite was big then, and it didn't taste good to me. So I went to visit my aunt, and she said, "You're going to try beer," and I was like, "Okay, fine. If I have to, I guess, And then they brought out this picture, this beautiful orangey, slightly hazy beer that had this nice citrusy aroma. And I just kind of looked at that and I said, "That doesn't look like beer." And my aunt says, "Yes, it is." And she gave me a sip of it. And it was like, I'll never forget. I said to her, "This is beer?" And she said, "Yeah, this is beer." I was like, "No way." And, I was hooked. And I came back, and at that point in time, Bell's was selling in Michigan, but you didn't have a tap room where you go buy beer. I was living north of Bell's, but eventually I found some of the bottles, and, I came to Bell's Amber Ale, and that was my Michigan craft beer. I drank that for years, loved it so much.
What's funny is that's not the first time Bell's Amber has been brought up within the last few weeks, too.
That was my first. Well, I had Newcastle before, but Ken bought me a Bell's Amber.
That was your first, but I remember John Mallett talking about it too.
That used to be their signature beer. Or Oberon.
I think it needs to come back. But what about you, Annette? As Dan, taking Dan's question over to you, what kind of brought you into?
I was actually bartending. It's sort of a long background. Angie was a lawyer. I was a registered nurse in Chicago. And I lost my job and blah, blah, blah. We don't need to go into all the details, but I needed a job and I started bartending in a bar that actually Chicago was behind Michigan in craft beer. So this is in 95, but they didn't really have any craft beer. They had a lot of imports though on tap. And I was bartending and I wasn't really a drinker at all. And I didn't drink beer and, I wasn't a drinker. And I found myself just having to learn about beer and tasting a few and just, whatever. The one that really got me in was hot Friday afternoons in the middle of summer, and it was Hackashaw Hefeweizen, and you pour it from the bottle in the traditional way into the Hefeweizen vase. And I actually, I used to pour them and I didn't really taste them because I just wasn't really a drinker. I enjoyed the job, but I was never a drinker. And one day, I guess at the end of my shift, and I'd been pouring them all day, and you'd line up 6 Hefeweizen glasses and do the pour and add the bottom and the yeast, and it was like a little show. It was so much fun. And one day I had one and for my shifty, and I just thought it was the best thing I'd ever had. So that was the beer that brought me in. Funnily enough, it's not my favorite style now. I've really got to be in the mood, and mostly with food, to drink a Hefeweizen. But that's what really got me in, because it's just so fruity and spicy. And I didn't really have a lot of notion about what beer was or wasn't supposed to be, because I was never much of a drinker. I'd had some crappy Australian beer when I was much younger, but that was really about it. So,
did it come in a big oil can?
Was it Foster's?
Foster's
but
can.
seriously, everybody knows that Foster's is all like salesmanship and oil cans don't exist. So that's all American marketing. Nobody drinks. You are hard pressed to find Foster's in Australia. Totally, it's
that's
almost
really
impossible.
funny.
Really?
Yes.
That's very funny.
Yeah, well, I will tell you, and if you talk to an Australian, because they're very loyal to their brands, just like you're a Bud person, a Miller person, whatever, Coolest, wherever you come from, everyone's like, oh, that Foster's, it's such shite, I'm a VB person, or I'm a Carlton Draft. But you know what? VB and Carlton Draft are just as much shitty as Foster's. Foster's is no better or worse than any of the other beers, but for some reason it was never popular, and it's actually really hard to find there. And oil cans are totally an invention.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think I remember the last time I seen Foster's on a shelf.
Yeah, good point. I haven't seen a commercial for it or anything, and I don't know how long.
It's been a while since I've last seen one, so it's probably been a lot sooner since I've actually had Foster's versus actually seeing a commercial. So
Why have you drank Foster's, Nick? Like,
it's because, like Annette says, it's the marketability of that oil can.
It's all marketing, and and this is a good thing. The Foster's we always got here was not made in Australia, which is actually a good thing because of freshness. It was made in Canada anyway, but that's kind of a good thing.
As someone early 20s, not a lot of money, but looking for more for what I can buy. When we went to, me and Ken, with a couple of our mutual friends, we went to a concert in Westland, and they were
the Token Lounge. I
was going to say, it's only one place in Westland.
There's only one place to go to a concert in Westland.
They had Foster's oil can, and I'm like, okay, well.
Whoa, exotic import.
I had a little bit of money,
Yeah.
a lot of
From
time.
Canada.
Gonna go get it. So
Oh,
I want to show you guys real quick before I bring it off to Wendy. But here is our nice can. This is that amazing alt beer that is being made over at Batch Brewing.
You're making an alt beer? Oh,
yes, it is Autonomous Collective. So one of their brewers over there is making it, and she is doing an amazing job with that beer.
Is it Kim or Al?
It's Kim. I ran into her at Black is Beautiful over at Eastern Market with Steven.
I wanted to go to that, but couldn't make it.
And I kept telling Steven over at Batch, I'm like, I want to buy a keg of this. And he said no, and he said no. And so he said, talking to her, because he's like, he wants to buy a keg of your beer. And she's like, well, why not? And he goes, okay, well, she's the boss. So I'm going to be hopefully getting a keg here soon. Kuma, who is back working over at Batch.
I saw his picture. I'm glad to see he's back.
Lives over here by me in Ipsy, so I'm hoping I can just Venmo some money so there's no credit card processing fees and get it over to Batch Brewing. They give me a keg of beer and I'll be happy. Wendy?
Can I just jump in for 1 second and say something?
You can say anything you want.
I just want to point out just one quick thing about Schoolcraft, that Fermenta has offered scholarships, and we have awarded scholarships to tuition and book reimbursement for Schoolcraft College Brewing Program.
Awesome.
That's awesome. That was actually one of the questions I was going to ask. Because one of the things that I noticed over the last couple of months is how much Fermenta's been posting all the different online classes and stuff that you can get on their Facebook page. And I just think it's amazing, like how much information you guys are putting out there to help people get into the industry. So I wanted to ask you about the scholarship program, Annette, for one.
Okay. Well, I'm the scholarship director. I'm on the board. We all have to get voted in every year. So you hold a board position for a year. So this is the first year I've been the scholarship director. Although I was on the committee, we have a scholarship committee previously. So basically we look, well, I'll tell you what's a challenge right now is that Fermenta is not just beer. We are wine, cider, mead, kombucha, and just recently gone into fermented and distilled liquids as well, spirits and foods. So one of the big challenges for us right now is finding viable scholarships outside of beer, because there's a lot in beer, but it's really hard to find some stuff. So that's an ongoing thing, and the committee is always looking. And it's also more of a challenge right now, because right now we're just trying to do things that are available online. There's plenty of, you can go to cheese making classes at Zingerman's, but we can't send anybody now. So that's kind of like a little bit of a challenge right now. So basically what we do, we budget an amount every year for scholarships. We also get donations. Part of our membership dues goes to scholarship. Before COVID, we would have a big fundraising event every year. Money would channel into the scholarship fund, and then it's up to the scholarship director and the scholarship to the committee to designate where that money goes. Do a lot of research. Right now I'm looking into a possible scholarship to the IBD, the Institute of Brewing and Distillation, which is in England, and they offer online courses in both brewing and distillation. And an IBD certificate is like the big deal. To see if that's viable for us. So whatever the scholarship is, we set a monetary value. We also decide whether we're offering one scholarship right now or 2 or 3. It just depends on a lot of outside factors and what's going on in the world. We also have 3 different levels of scholarship. We have sort of an entry level. So if you're really just getting into it, like a beginner class, like the Beer Savvy Boot Camp, for instance, is very much a beginner class. Wendy knows what that is. That's to attain the first level of Cicerone certification, which is the Beer Server certificate. That would be possibly an entry-level scholarship. And we have offered both scholarships to the in-person class, which aren't being held right now because of COVID, but there's also an online version. So that would be an example of an entry-level scholarship. The next level is called continuous education, and that's for somebody that's already in the industry and looking to further their career. For instance, right now, the Siebel Institute in Chicago, Brewing Institute, which is a very venerable institute, they've just started up with a series of online lectures. You can just do a single lecture. They have 6 areas. Each lecture goes for about 45 minutes, and you can buy them individually, which is a really good thing because Siebel has a lot of stuff to offer, but it's incredibly expensive. I'm not saying it's not worth it, but it is very, very costly. So they've actually broken it down and allowed you to just buy an individual lecture. So in our latest round of scholarship, we had 2 scholarships going for 2 different lectures per person, and they could choose the lecture they want. So that's like, it's called continuing education. And there's many, many examples of that. It's just sort of a slightly higher level. And then the 3rd level is things like a conference, memberships to professional organizations. So we're now aiming at people that are sort of firmly established in their careers. So we give away scholarship to the Michigan Brewers Guild Conference every year. We've given away scholarships to the Hops and Barley Conference that happens every year in March. Next year, and we were going to do it this year, but COVID jumped in. Next year, we're going to be doing a scholarship. There's I think they're just called the Fermentation Association. They focus on everything fermented, but mostly food. And they're actually running their very first conference in Chicago next year. That was supposed to happen this year in April, but it got cancelled. So next year we'll be offering a conference to a scholarship to this fermentation conference, which is doing a lot of fermented foods and everything. So professional organization, textbook reimbursement, tuition reimbursement. If you're already involved in a brewing program, and there's many, many of them around the state, many of them, we will give you X amount of dollars towards it. Book reimbursements, Angie, anything I've forgotten or anything?
No,
important?
no, that's pretty much. I mean, we've given away some textbooks. We've also given away kind of on a first come, first serve basis, like the Master Brewers Association of the
Picnic.
Americas, the Summer
Yeah.
Social for District Michigan. We've given away a couple of tickets to those, you know, just books here and there and things like that. So the point is to try to educate our members and further things along as much as possible. And by the way, a shout out, not a shout out, but a solicitation. If anybody out there has an idea of some scholarships and things you think we should be offering, shoot us a line. We would love to hear it.
Especially also outside of beer, because I'm always looking for scholarships in cider, in mead, in wine, in kombucha. Again, right now it's a little difficult because of COVID. I'm trying, you know, like there's not really any live classes being held, but we appreciate all suggestions. Do you want to just mention Bertie Brown, Angie?
Yeah, so we were contacted, I think about a year ago now, by a gal who she's wanted to remain anonymous. She's a member, and she wanted to donate some money on a grant kind of basis for Black, Indigenous, and people of color members in Fermenta, because we have way too few people in this category coming into the fermentation industry. And if you talk to Rob, he'll tell you Black people love beer. All right, well, talk to Kuma. Black people brew beer. All right, so let's get more people in here drinking beer, brewing beer, and being part of it. So this donor donated some money to, like I said, it's a grant basis. So you can apply, and we'll give you a couple $100 to educate yourself, or it might cover gas to go back and forth to classes, or whatever the case may be. But it's for Black, Indigenous, and people of color who are members of Fermenta. And we've also got a program, if you're not able to afford membership, then contact us, and through the BIPOC, we might be able to get you a free membership. And because right now, this leads me into the next topic. So because of COVID, we basically froze our dues. So for all of our members, we froze our dues. We extended everybody who's in good standing. We extended their memberships for 9 months. Everybody whose memberships expired like right around the time of COVID, we reinstated them for free, because right now nobody should be dealing with membership fees. You know, even though a third of our fees go into scholarships, we've all got more important things to worry about. So we froze those things. And one of our board members, really, it was a brilliant idea, suggested that we offer free memberships. So we offered up to free memberships. And as of right now, Annette, I think we've got 34 of the 50.
Okay, we offered, first time 53 memberships. So that's still active for another like 16 memberships. You have to be a Fermenta member to apply for scholarship. But again, we're offering both free memberships, or if these run out and you're struggling, like contact us and we can help.
Contact us.
So the Bertie Brown Scholarship is a fourth category. So we have beginners, continuing education. I can't even remember the third level. What's the third level called? I should know.
Call it professional.
Professional, and Bertie Brown, which is for BIPOC candidates. So constantly posting about them. We need help getting the word out about the Bertie Brown Scholarship. So we have we have money to give people, and it's cash. They have to show us, they'll let us know what they want to use it for, and it has to be either directly, in some sort of education. You can buy books, tuition reimbursement, glasses, or you can use it like Angie said, if you need gas to get to class, or as long as it's sort of involved with education.
Well, that's one of the things. I don't know if you guys had actually seen over at Batch, but a huge push to trying to get let's call it minorities in the business industry. So it's basically just a bunch of white men for the most part. Women are, there's not that many women, not that many people of color. And I know what Batch Brewing is doing is trying to get a lot of people of color to the back line. So not in the kitchen, not bartending, but brewing beer and in that beer part. And
also beer serving, it's sort of like, into the whole, like, out of the kitchen and into both brewing and serving beer as well. So it's
so if
working on it.
they're going to be teaching classes over there, And one thing that we want to do here at Better on Draft, if you want to attend the class, you can't afford it, you need some help, reach out to us, betterondraft@gmail.com, and we'll pay for your entry, period.
So
No
Ken,
questions
you've
asked.
seen,
Oh, look at that. Nice.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Ken, I'm involved in this project as well. I don't know if you saw, I saw your name on the.
Yep.
So I'm involved
So
in this project as well.
we told Steven, we told him just flat out, you know, we want to promote it, we want to do it. So if you need help, you need assistance, you want to go and you want to learn it, you want to better yourselves, you want to enter, just betterondraft@gmail.com. Tell us, we'll pay for your entry fee, no questions asked, period. Wendy, did you ask your question? We kind of went on a little.
I don't know if she did.
Well, I wanted to get the information about the scholarships out there from Annette. But the one question that I have for Angie, so she mentioned Rat Fest earlier, and that's actually where I met her. It was the first time I ever actually participated fully in brewing my own beer.
Nice.
And she was our mentor for that Rat Fest. And it was an amazing experience. I really enjoyed working with her. I learned a lot. And I wanted to ask, what advice would you give people who wanted to leave their job and go into the beer industry?
Well, first of all, now is probably not a good time to do that for obvious reasons. But no, I mean, this is a really hard thing because what I always tell people is you should do what it is that you really want to do. And it's easy for me to say that. What I really wanted to be growing up was a band director. But I did some math and I decided there was no way. There's if you were lucky, there were maybe 2 band directors per school, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, well, if I was an English teacher, there's usually at least 4 for every high school and 2 for every junior high. So I did some math, which I was bad at. And I became an English teacher.
You're not bad at anything.
Yeah, oh, yes, I am.
Right?
Yes, I am. You should hear me sing. But no.
Boy, can you play those cowbells?
Yeah, I can do that.
The cowbell, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
all right. But
We're going to start a band after this.
and finger tambourine, I have that too. But no, the thing is when I was graduating from college, I found out our band director was leaving. And if I had gone into school to be a band director, they would have hired me. So the thing I always say is, first of all, decide if it's something you really want to do. And if it's something you want to do, give it a try. And then, the advice that someone gave to me way back when is, and the world's a little different now. This was 10 years ago. Way back when they said, look, go to a brewery and say, hey, I'll wash your kegs for you. We all hate washing kegs. Well, I'm weird. I like washing kegs, but most of us hate washing kegs. So they say, volunteer, wash some kegs, and you know what? Get your foot in the door. And if you do a good job, and more importantly, if you like it, then that's going to show and you're more likely to get hired. I sent out resumes, volunteering. My very first resume went to, at that time, Arbor Brewing Company. So Matt Graff contacted me and said, hey, we can always use volunteers at Corner. So if you want to come on down, we'll put you to work. So they did. And a month later, they hired me. And I've never looked back. I was so much happier working in beer than I was lawyering. So the point is, you got to decide, number one, is it something you really want to do? And number two, you've got to make that leap. And then like anything, you got to make connections. Get out there. Go learn to homebrew. If you don't already know how to brew beer at the homebrew level, you're going to have a harder time at the professional level. Brewing beer is the same everywhere. It's just that the equipment is different. So get out there, learn the basics, and find out if you like it. If you're somebody who likes getting dirty and getting wet, and you like getting malt dust all over your face, or sticking your nose in hops, and there's just something special about it, then you're going to know that this is the thing for you. We've had so many people, when I was at Corner, come and volunteer on the bottling line, and they're like, yeah, no, this is not for me. I like sitting at home in the garage, and I like drinking beer while I'm in the garage, and doing everything. But that's the thing is if you come in and we put you to work and we get you all wet and dirty and you go home with a smile on your face, they know we got you. So try. Decide if you really want to do it. Number two, learn how to brew. And then number three, ask how you can figure out how to do it. If you're in the industry, join a group like Fermenta. Go to festivals, talk to brewers.
Yeah,
Don't
Fermenta's big in networking too. There's a lot of people, a lot of women working in the industry right now that have networked and found jobs just through being at events and meeting people.
Yep.
I just want to point out a little bit of the reality too about, running, like giving up your job and running away to join the circus, as my husband would say. You do have to look at the reality of it, and that it's not a great paying job. So amongst all those things as well, you really should sit down and just figure out exactly like where you are now, what you're earning, and can I afford to cut my salary?
I think one of the
you would potentially be earning.
One of the big things you mentioned, because Angie, you said you were a lawyer, correct?
Yeah.
What's funny is that just this year, you're not the first lawyer to just give up lawyering to chase their dream, because we had Jason Lavala on. And if you're unfamiliar with Jason Lavala, he owns Casamara Club, which is...
Oh, I know Jason, yeah. I didn't know he was a lawyer.
He was a lawyer. He's actually been helping me with some stuff, which I appreciate him very much. So definitely go buy some.
Fabulous. Plug for Jason Casamara Club. Fabulous stuff.
Yeah, we had him on we did a dry January this year. So we had him on promoting dry January, doing some mixed cocktails with some non-alcoholic liquors. So yeah, it was a blast having him on and learning that story, how he was a lawyer and he just like, you know what, fuck this, leaves New York and goes on. So it's, I think a lot of people that it's a huge leap, and there's probably for every story that there's an Angie and there's a Jason, there's probably 1,000 stories, of people who it just didn't happen for them. But in the same sense, you don't get that opportunity unless you take that first step.
Right.
Well, my husband did the same. Like, again, my husband's a brewer. He was a home brewer for 30 years. And 10 years ago, he said, I'm just going to give up my extremely well-paying engineering job and run away and join the circus. And he did. And he dropped from a pretty decent salary with benefits and a company car to $10 an hour with no benefits. And we struggled like shit for the first year because I was working in the industry and earning $10, $12. Actually, I was making a lot of money. Like I was earning $13 an hour. And okay, we didn't, Mike's kids were all grown, blah, 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 blah. But still, it was a big decision and we struggled for a year, but it was so worth it to see the smile on his face every single day and for him to sleep solid 8 hours a night and just to be happy as shit all the time. And it was so worth it. So, you kind of have to look at everything too.
We're going to be kind of wrapping this up. Obviously, Fermenta, what's the website so everyone knows where to go and so I can write it down real quick?
It is fermentamichigan.org.
Fermentamichigan.org. Obviously, a lot of information to digest. I want to kind of end the podcast portion, the interview portion of the podcast, with a little bit of fun. So I'm going to start with Angie. Angie looks a little like puzzled, scared. Angie, you go the next brewery, wherever you find yourself, whether it's back at Kickstand or someone picks you up after the whole COVID shit that's going on. What is the first beer you want to brew? What style? What beer do you want to make?
This is going to be really unsatisfying for you guys.
Uh-oh.
But no, really, as a brewer, I don't care what style it is. I really don't. Because it's so hard to consistently make really great beer that to me, the challenge is in doing the consistency of it. So going back and saying, I want to make blank style, I don't really care about that. If anything, all right, if I'm lazy, I might make a light beer because you're not lifting too much in the way of grain and you don't have many hops. If I were sadistic, I would say triple IPA, and then we'd have a ton of hops and a ton of trubs and hop additions every 2 seconds. But it's the next, it's like I always say, people ask me, what is your favorite beer? And I always say, it's the one that's in front of me right now. Because
provided it's in a clean glass.
Good point.
So,
yes, if I'm
as long as it's in a clean glass.
If I'm drinking it and I'm enjoying it and it's tasty, then that's my favorite beer. So that's how I feel about going back to work and whatever you're going to brew, whatever's there, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. I don't care what the style is.
All right. And for Annette, because Annette, I tell you what, there are slews of people on the internet, people who have said, going to merchants was their first craft beer experience, talking to you, learning from you, understanding. Like, I can't tell you how many people, when I bring up your name, they're just like, oh my God, Merchants, Annette, crazy. Like all these things happen. They know exactly who you are. They know what's going on. They know everything. So I want to know, what was the most obscure beer that you ever had to sell at Merchants? Something from a weird country that you're like, oh, well, let's see if this, because you used to separate them by countries even. Because I remember
Weird
picking them out
country.
by countries.
That
Well,
was
like
the
a
first time I ever
Uganda
saw
beer.
anything like that.
Gosh, I've got a few stories of that. One of the most obscure beers. All right, so the one I can think of the most, there's actually a beer from Finland called Sati. Sati, and again, we don't have much time, but look it up. Sati is very unusual, and the lauterton is actually a log, and you lather it over juniper twigs, and it uses baker's yeast, and it's like really kind of bizarre and crazy. So well before Merchants, I worked for an import company, and we brought in traditional Sati from Finland, and it has a shelf life of like 1 week. And by the time it got here from Finland, it wasn't in the greatest shape, blah, blah, blah. The producer of that Sati brought in a shelf-stable version of it.
Wow.
And it was called Kataja. And the brew was called Lammen, and they made traditional Finnish Sati, which some brew pubs do, mind you, but it's not a beer you can really bottle and send to the other side of the world. But Lammen did a Kataja, which is a shelf-stable version of Sati. And that's probably the weirdest beer I ever had to sell, just right off the top of my head.
So while you were chatting, I actually showed the link to the Wikipedia for Sati, and there are a handful of American breweries that make it. New Belgium made one called Sati Ale. Dogfish Head made one called Sa''T. Sam Adams.
That was a little different. Batch made one.
Batch made one.
Yes. Goose Island, I will say, Goose Island in Chicago, I used to bartend. I've worked in Chicago for a lot of years. Like I said, I bartended at Goose Island for a couple of years. They were doing Sati 20 years ago. I think, like a long, long time ago, before anybody really knew what it is. The company I worked for were bringing in the real stuff at the same time. But Goose Island were making Sati at their brew pub back then.
Looks like Ordoc in Marquette made one too.
Oh, cool. Go out and try it, everyone. It's got a strong juniper flavor. It's about 8% alcohol.
I was going to say that the juniper, I'm a big gin guy, so I feel like that's definitely going to be a little bit down my alley. So maybe the next time I try to brew a beer over at North Center Brewing over in Northville, Michigan, just south of Baseline Road over on North Center Road.
The Voodoo Donut, before pastry stout became a thing, that Rogue were making Voodoo Donut beers, and that was before everyone started putting cake in their stouts. So this is years ago. That was pretty weird for the time. 10 years ago, it was weird to have donuts.
I can't say much because for segment 2, I've got from my Tavor package, Octopi Brewing Belgian Chocolate Toffee Vanilla Stout.
I was thinking there'd be an octopus in it.
I was too.
No.
Oysters in here.
It's a very Detroit beer.
There you go. Good one. Go
right.
Wings.
Go, yes. I was really hoping that Kwame Kilpatrick would have had his time done so that he can go buy me the beer he owes all of us from the 08 Red Wings Championship. And if you guys don't know about that, you can YouTube that. Annette, Angie, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it very much. FermentaMichigan.org is their website. You can go over there.
Watch out for our scholarships.
Yeah, watch out for the scholarships, and you can go over there, check it out. We will be right back with the Better on Draft podcast.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
We all supposed to uplift me, shift me. Everybody set them up Shit's Creek. And I just said something embarrassing. embarrassing to Cheryl Teagues, and I'm aware of tease, but I'm staring at a parodies. High five, bro, singing somewhere 5 or less sign. Think about it, rise and decide that I'm gross and fine time with fine folks. I'm some ride or die close and wants to ride a unicycle across a tightrope. Like the battle, I might choke the shit out of a rapper with the right quote. I hate to be accused of hyperbole, paid no attention to the man behind the curtain courtesy. Yo, I'm 33, give a fuck about your diet, serving me, insert your favorite surgery. Whole goddamn circus is absurd to me. Return to a mercy me, murder modernity, permanently. Yeah, big perm, picturing some urban weed. But y'all are nervous about a turpentine. Running from the gun serpentine, I've had the perfect week. Earth to dweebs, since I've learned to tweet. I've been like, large extra large, bars, bars, hardest and cars, tarnish the stars, charge with the guards, garnish with law, partial cigars, large extra large.
Fill my pockets with the wallet of a misanthropic pill, pop it ill, gotten hit the chill spot, y'all got the pot of chili hot, really not dealing with you Billy Bobs, SOB, silly sob stories, getting gory with the Philly cheese, spill it on my filthy jean jacket, reenactment of a pigeon crapping, pissing in your picnic basket, pitching, catch you sick and fetch, wiggle like you pitched a tent, rhymes and beats so sick you wrench, sitting on your picket fence, you hit the deck, Wicked's job, chop them like a chicken neck, second best, something that I'll never be like sick of sex, pick up checks, something that I never do, pickle eggs, something that I never chew, get respect, something that I never knew like revenue, resolute to evolute, get up off my level in your devil suit, I don't need your residue, your resume embellished, mine is bulletproof, bully on cues for the fennel soup, a friend of few,
large extra large, bars extra bars, hardest and cars, tarnish the stars, charge at the guards, garnish with law, partial cigars, large extra large, bars Escobars, hardest and cars, tarnish the stars, charge at the guards, garnish with law, partial cigars, large extra large. Exhausted in a soft spot, soft, but I get off, and I thought I might be a great one, but Nathan, what I make from the songs that I make in layman's, I'm a straight bum, dumb how I radiate, radio made with love, integrated, I'm a grade above, ayo, I'm patient with impatient love, saintly for my space and funds, forever keep a face of fuss, amazingly in taste buds, never make a fuss, I was made a son in 81 and 98, I take some drugs, a couple major ones, still not emaciated, taste the crumbs, turn up the bass, so let the basic bump, Banal to my blood stain the avenue, cats are cool, cashes rule, and we catching all the cancer too, passing while we chanting mood, laughing at the man till I'm pushing up the daffodils, low hanging fruit, don't hang with you and yours, she got low bangs, and you the human, and humidor, slow change of views, movement of a troubadour, all in all I'm smart enough to know what stupid's for, low hanging fruit, don't hang with you and yours, she got low bangs, and you the human, and humidor, slow change of views, movement of a troubadour, all in all I'm smart enough to know what stupid's for.
Bittersweet sounds, one in the street town, syndicates drowned by the litigants, hung by our ligaments, workers losing benefits, criminal interest and they claiming they beneficent, we are in a new time, paradigm shifting and they're telling us we're shiftless when all we do is show off our shifts and shit, standing on the fiscal cliff, polar bears swimming for the coast, post up and bear witness, rope thinner than the hair on our chinny chin, chilling in chinchilla skin, slipping, sipping chivas, chicken littleish, sky is falling, dying birds, Mark Fitterich, march in the mist, tear gas, cartridge, carcinogen, sniff 'em in.
Forget the sirens and listen to the words I'm saying, forget the crunch of broken glass on the feet, forget the patterns of light reflected off the edges, forget the bag, get off the street, yo. Low hanging fruit, don't hang with you and yours, she got low bangs, and you the human, and humidor, slow change of views, movement of a troubadour, all in all I'm smart enough to know what stupid's for, low hanging fruit, don't hang with you and yours, she got low bangs, and you the human, and humidor, slow change of views,
And we are back, episode 225, Better on Draft podcast. I don't know where Nick is. Looks like Nick dropped off a little bit, but we are back. So
Did he
it's just
just
the three
leave?
of us right now. Yeah, he just left. That's okay. It's the important people. It's me, Dan, and Wendy. So for segment 2, so I mentioned that octopi beer, and then I looked at the ABV of the beer, which is 10%. So I decided to throw it back in the fridge, and
jeez.
I got myself some Grand Armory white chocolate blonde. So
that's delicious.
That's what I'm gonna be drinking right now. Dan, you're upset, so I'm gonna go to Wendy.
So I heard that today was International Beer Run Day.
International Beer Run Day, yes.
Right. I'm not sure because I didn't have time to look it up because my niece and nephew were here. I'm not sure if that's like an actual like run.
No, it's going for a beer run.
All right. So,
not run for beer.
Good, then I did this correctly. One of my technicians the other day got off work a little early and had to try out his motorcycle because he had to get so many miles on it for the break-in period. And he went to Ohio to get us beer, and he brought me back the Trogue Summer Pack. Okay. So I am drinking a Haze Charmer Hazy Pale Ale. Delicious.
It is Michigan craft beer month.
I know, but it was a beer run, and that's a pretty good run to go to Ohio to get some beer, and Trogues is fantastic. I also had him get me some Nimble Giant. It was pretty funny because he hands me the beer, and he's like, "Man, you like expensive beer." And I was like, "You have no idea." Like that 4-pack was not as expensive as some of the 4-packs I have purchased recently.
I have tried, and I have continued to try to get this draft top remover to work.
Was wondering if you were still using that actually earlier today, and here you are.
I've got up in that corner right over there. That's a handful of draft tops to send to you guys. I was trying to use it, and what was funny is that so I was I don't know what happened, but Facebook, Google algorithms, all that shit. But it started to show up the like Chinese knockoffs of this.
Oh jeez.
And I'm talking like a good dozen worth of ads of different pages because I hide them. Fuck this shit. A Chinese knockoffs.
Is that what you're using? A Chinese knockoff?
No, I'm using the real one.
Pour it in a glass.
Okay, I'm getting there. I just realized I still have all beer too. But that's
just open the can.
I did open the can.
Drink the beer.
Listen, guys, I buy and look at gimmicky stuff. Not to be too gimmicky though, I did get this little plastic 4-pack carrier, which is pretty neat. Holds cans, bottles, tall boys all at the same time. It's collapsible, so you don't have to do anything too crazy about it. So this is what it looks like when it's just hanging around. So I got a handful of those. The goal was to send you some. So that's the draft top right there on the camera. That's those over there. So they'll be coming to you. But yeah, I wanted it to work so bad, and it just doesn't work. And the guy, he's like, "Oh, just look at the videos on Facebook or on YouTube." So I went to the videos. And I went to YouTube, and this dude's fucking doing it like it was nothing. And I'm like, I can only put together the following statement is that I'm guessing Michigan Mobile Canning has to be doing all of this canning, and therefore all of their cans suck for me. But then again, every can sucks for me. But I'm drinking white blonde, chocolate blonde. Nick, what are you drinking?
I don't even know that question.
Bush. Double fisting Bush.
What was it? I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago. I bought 4 tall boys at Coors Light. I'm like, sometimes you just want something light, easy to drink, crushable, and you don't want to spend a shit ton of money.
I don't need to because I have a ton of beer at home, and it's unfortunate I didn't bring it.
But it's not with you.
I know. I'm in Battle Creek.
Wendy, what are you drinking over there?
I'm still drinking the Haze Charmer.
Slow and steady. We gotta help you with that. You gotta realize we're drinking two beers
I'm gonna
per
open
segment.
the Nimble Giant next. And I do have an Unladylike to round out the show, which is a Michigan beer brewed by women.
All right. Dan, what do you got over there?
In your bush.
Oh, Jesus. I cracked open a Black is Beautiful from Wanderlust Brewing up in Flagstaff.
Okay.
Nice.
Is that the same Black is Brewing that you had last week, or is this a different one?
No, same one.
Same
They're the
one?
only
Okay.
ones that have really put anything out so far, at least out here. So
Yeah, we've had a few that have started to launch them in cans and taps up here in Michigan. I think Batch is about to release theirs.
July 10th.
July 10th. That's such a great day. It should be a national holiday, I think.
And Supernatural is releasing theirs tomorrow.
Okay. That's over in the Westland area. I could probably swing by there. Just so you guys are aware, different from Black is Beautiful, Black Excellence just got brewed from Wren House over in Arizona, Dan. Some Arizona news.
it's about 1.5 miles from my house.
So this was brewed in collaboration with Eastern Market Brewing, Wren House over in Arizona and Phoenix, and the Brews Brothers, which is another podcast here on the Better on Draft Media Network. So go check out the Brews Brothers. Go leave them a review on iTunes. 5 stars saying best podcast ever after Better on Draft. But there's actually going to be a show. They're going to be doing a little bit of a collaboration between Better on Draft and Tap That AZ, which is the Arizona Craft Beer Premier podcast, as well as the Brews Brothers, Wren House, and EMBC. We're going to be recording that on Monday, so definitely be sure to check that out. We did not get a chance, obviously. We kind of mentioned it last week. We buried the lead, and it didn't happen. We were supposed to have an interview with Senator Nesbitt, but I think just times crossed, and we couldn't get together on time, which is perfectly fine. But the big news this week coming out of Michigan is that Whitmer did sign the giant Wenzel bill into law. So now no more tokens at beer festivals. So Dan, that beer is no longer a 4-token beer.
Thank God. I was getting mad about that.
That's episode 223.5. You can go check it out on the podcast over on any podcast network, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Podchaser, whatever you may use. I did learn that 4 people listen to our show on Zune.
What?
Yes.
Zune.
Yes.
What?
I gave you a second to take in.
Wait. Zune? Like Zune?
Yeah, like a Microsoft Zune.
How funny. I was actually looking those up on Amazon like about a week ago.
Why?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you want a
like, here it
Nokia
is.
N-Gage to replace your phone?
No, I didn't. No. You know what's funny is because the guy who did our floors uses LG chocolates as like a radio because it has an AM FM receiver on it. And it's like the cheapest thing to use for like a radio when you're doing sanding and painting floors. So it's like, oh, you can still get old devices like that. Same with the
Guys, you know what we should do? We should all get Nextels.
Next.
So we can just chirp each other.
Was Nextel the promotion that went where you at?
Yeah, I think so.
Was
Because you
it?
would just
I
hit
don't
the
know.
walkie-talkie option on it to make that damn noise.
That was back when you could pay for the Motorola V60s, but they were the construction version, which you could like launch 30 feet into the air and it wouldn't break.
Oh, kind of like
That's
the
what I
top.
need.
They I know they still sell. There's a handful. I think Verizon still makes a construction like a heavy duty type phone for those who drop them immensely that don't want to pay for.
I broke my OtterBox.
Yeah,
if
I have
that
an
tells you anything.
OtterBox.
I broke it.
I have like I don't know about you guys, but I've been Android since iPhone 3, and I've got a OnePlus, and I just love the OnePlus so much. it's such a easy to use, cheap brand that isn't as like I have had Galaxies and Notes and the little pen shit and stuff, but I don't know. I just like my little OnePlus, and I'm
Wait,
happy.
OnePlus is a cheap phone? I always see them for like $700 or $800. Are you kidding me?
Have you seen how much a brand new Note like 9 costs or whatever? Note 10?
Or even or what about like the iPhone X? Like it's over $1,000.
I can get the most expensive version of a OnePlus for like $750, or like the comparison of like a Note 9 or whatever the current Meta top phone is going to be like $1,100 or $1,200. So
you guys are fucking crazy. I'm sorry.
Do you have a BlackBerry over there, Dan, or a Black?
No, but I do have a Blue, so and it's got 6 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of memory. And it costs $200. So
yeah,
I don't know what you all are doing.
I mean, I'm happy with what I got.
Dan, there you go. Push to talk. There you go.
It always reminds me of whatever that music video is where the girl's texting the guy or texting Nelly or whatever, like, where are you? But she's typing it in like Microsoft Excel. Still one of my favorite
Microsoft Excel.
Yeah, it's still one of the funniest things ever. So we're really happy that the Wenzel Wenzel law has gone through. So there's a lot of updates in regards to breweries, and we hope these updates still continue. I don't think the Weber law has gotten signed in yet, which is the social districts law. I think that's still going to Whitmer, or it's still in the Senate. But one of the things that is happening, or should I say, could still be happening, is the Craft Beverage Expo. So as of right now, in November, the Craft Beverage Expo in Kentucky is still going. This is not part of the Brewers Association, so everything for the Brewers Association has been canceled for the year. So Savor, CBC, Brew Expo, World Beer Cup, GABF, and Home BrewCon, they have all been canceled for the upcoming year. So they're going to lose about 100,000 attendees worth of tickets. But the Craft Beverage Expo, which is a different company, is still going on in November. Where do you guys think we're going to be in just 4 months? I mean, Dan says
it's going to get canceled. Things already are getting canceled in September, October. Nothing's happening this year. Just have to accept it.
Yeah. So today, I don't know if it actually was made public, but I actually tweeted Adam Schefter because as a season ticket holder, I would think he should know too. The Lions said that, they're still planning on holding a season. At the same time, the Packers are publicly acknowledging there's a good chance we're not going to be playing with any fans, let alone maybe in football.
Well, that brings up a good point because California won't let them play until there's a vaccine. Now, in Arizona, because we're fucking retarded, at least our governor is.
Well, what about in the state of Michigan?
Well, I wasn't talking about your governor.
Well,
your governor is not as retarded as the Arizona one.
So today or just this week, we took a step back, basically across the entire state of Michigan. In some areas, we took as many as 2 steps back. And I'm talking about the Lansing area right now. I think Grand Rapids took 1 step back, and everyone's kind of holding still right now.
So the state's kind of going back. Breweries are still allowed to be open. There's a lot of confusion because if you did not have, you needed at least 30% of your sales to be food. To be not considered in the Whitmer closing platform.
The executive order.
Yeah, but that was clarified that specific, I think, retailers, so makers, distilleries, wineries, breweries that may only just do beer are excluded from that. So
and it's actually kind of funny, but at the same time it's not funny because we're talking about people's businesses.
Oh, sure.
People that we follow on Facebook, like Redline said, okay, we're closed again. Not more than an hour or 2 later, he sends another post. I was like, oh, guess what? We were wrong. We're excluded. We're open again. And
I think
interesting how that happens.
I'm gonna talk as the person who knows the most about the restaurant industry in this group, for the fact that there is too many nuances and differences in restaurants, because I can go over all of the different types of restaurants, styles, different things, whether it's a breakfast lunch place, a 7 a.m. bar, like our third shift bar. Like there are so many different things that occur within the industry that it's not just chain restaurant, non-chain restaurant, bar, and nightclub. Like there's just so much more to that than just those deviations, that even a blanket statement like Whitmer did with 70% must be 70% or less has to be your alcohol sales. But when like the people who are carrying the most, for the most part, we won't say anybody's names from brewer pubs in Lansing, like they're usually the cleanest places that you go. They take good care of what they're doing because they already do. Like these are the people that are beer clean glasses, cleaning their lines, cleaning, sanitizing. Like not only do they have, go on, Dan.
The problem isn't with that, Ken. The problem is it travels via droplets. I'm there not wearing a mask at a table, laughing, getting loud like we like to do when we're out there, and all of a sudden 50 other people there who are there at the same time have it. That's not the problem. You can clean glasses all day. But when the AC is carrying it around, that's the issue.
Which is why she made the distinctions that she made, because what she's trying to do is close down the places that have dance floors, pool tables, things like that, where you cannot physically social distance.
And we saw in I know the head brewer over at 9 Yards over in Seattle, and I saw like the shareable areas, we can call them. So pool tables, shuffleboards, that kind of stuff, and it's the same over here in Michigan. But those are still closed. And Dan, if you look at the history of COVID and how it spread and how the initial spread was because of a restaurant in whatever city it was, where it spread from one person to a bunch of people, and when they realized where the people were sitting and how it wasn't, I'm not facing you, you're 50 feet away, but the air conditioning's carrying it.
Exactly.
I 100% agree and understand, and I think there are right and wrong ways to do it. I think we as a country personally need to just get on board.
100%. Let me put it in this perspective. I think it was either Tuesday or Wednesday. Arizona, with 7 million people, had more new cases than the entire EU did the same day. Because, my rights, I need to go to that one state, had more than the entire EU. Because my rights to sit at a restaurant are more important than everyone else's lives.
And that also includes...
that's just...
Yeah. The EU is doing good, but not every country in the EU, because Sweden tried to do the whole herd immunity thing, and that just
didn't really work out for them.
Didn't work.
No, not
I don't
at
think
all.
Is Sweden in the EU? I'm not entirely sure that they are.
I don't know. I just kind of say EU
find
as
out.
Europe. Europe as a whole. So let's just say Europe. But yeah, so when you're doing your best when you're out and you're going to breweries or going to bars and stuff like that, is to limit your interactions. Nick, I mean, you showed
It's there. Sweden is part of the EU.
So
is it? Nice.
Yeah.
You got to do your best as a human being to just make sure you don't do the spread. Like we have,
there's a social responsibility that we as people need to take when we're going out, restaurants, bars, whatever. There's a level of social responsibility on top of this.
Well, I want to bring it over to Wendy real quick, because Wendy's working in HVAC. Are you going into people's houses still? What's the...
We never stopped going into people's houses.
Okay, you never stopped
from the very beginning. We never stopped, because it's a necessary thing. Your hot water doesn't work. You can't clean things properly. The air, especially like now, that's a debatable whether air is necessary or not. But right now, I would say that it is, because mine just went out. But
Oh, geez.
and they have every time they go into a house, they have to have new shoe covers on between each house. They have to wear new gloves and a new mask every time they go in.
What
And
about
we
like
do
suit
question them.
coverall kind of stuff?
We don't do a suit coverall right now, just because we haven't run into that situation. We didn't have anybody.
Sure.
Most people knew if I have somebody sick in the house, I'm not going to bring somebody into the house.
Yeah.
We did have one situation where there was a room that was quarantined because they had possible symptoms, but they kept them in the other room and like had postings on the door saying do not enter, that kind of stuff. And that one did kind of worry us at first, but it all turned out okay. But every place that we go, they have to have all those things. And most of that stuff, we didn't wear masks and gloves before, but shoe coverings and things like that, that's just a normal safety precaution.
One of the things that I'm worried,
I would say, yeah.
One of the things that I'm worried about, and it's the fact that everyone, like especially this weekend, it's a long weekend because you get the observance day that flows right into the weekend. So whether you got Friday or Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday, one of the big things is people are going to region 6 and 8. They're going to Traverse City. They're going to the UP. They're going to these places, and it's not. Are they going to because someone who has it is going up there. Let's just put odds where it
guaranteed.
is.
Oh, it's guaranteed. Yep.
Who you interact with, what's going on. Like if you interact with people who are living there and who have issues and we don't want, I hope that shit does not happen. Like I 100% I will put that out there. Like I don't want this, that like I fucking want to go back into our studio. I want to be able to get my, Diet Vernors or Diet Coke or whatever, like my meat sticks. Like I want that Friday night, that chance to just kind of get out of the house. Like we don't have that anymore. We don't have that.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Ken, but just to put it in perspective, I should be in Italy right now. I couldn't go there right now if I wanted to.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, they won't let us in.
They don't want us.
They don't want us because no one wants to just deal with this. Everyone wants to scream about their rights. Everyone wants to scream about, I'm not wearing a mask. Everyone wants to bully employees of the places that are trying to be open and survive. It's becoming
That's
stupid.
the thing that bugs me the most.
The bullying, yeah. Oh, that's really making me mad. It's happening everywhere. You have people like demanding not to wear masks and trying to find loopholes, especially in places like Las Vegas, where it's now starting to explode because people are like, I'm not going to wear a mask there. I'll find a loophole and just keep a drink in my mouth the whole time. Well, and now everything's going to get shut down again. If we would just have taken advantage of what we had, like Europe shut down and took advantage of it.
Things.
Exactly. Europe shut down, worked through it, and now they have almost no cases. We did it, and people fought about and screamed about their rights in the Constitution, and now we're the laughing stock of the country. And
our whole country is a laughing stock.
The whole country is a laughing stock.
We're a laughing stock. I'm sorry, we're a laughing stock of the world.
Guys, I know you're listening on the podcast, and it's, oh my God, it's another fucking, mask thing. But the big thing about the masks is that we wouldn't be talking about it if we didn't care about the breweries. We didn't care about the industry. And not just breweries, restaurants, craft beer bars, all
like
businesses.
Our society.
Like,
come on.
Yeah, like we live in a selfish culture. Everything is what about me. Everyone is what about me. And as much as, it just is what it is. Like we've seen those fake little cards that say, I can, I'm ADA and I tell you what, if you are ADA and you can't wear a mask for X, Y, or Z reason, I 100% respect that, but understand, and this is for businesses as well as those carrying that card, that if you call and report an ADA, yes, the business can't ask you what your reason why you're ADA, but the ADA is going to fucking ask you and verify and nothing's going to
Yeah.
happen. So no matter what. Now, the reasonable accommodations, if you can't wear a mask and you want to complain about ADA and you do have ADA, reasonable accommodations include curbside pickup, shipped, delivery, like those
DoorDash and all those.
all of
We won't
those,
talk about that.
all of those are reasonable accommodations
Yeah.
for you to get whatever you need. You walking
Yeah.
into a grocery store is not a freedom. They can stop you for not wearing pants.
Like I tell people all the time, your constitutional right ends at their front door.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter. You can't do, if they don't want you there, you're not allowed there. It doesn't matter what you scream out, your rights.
It just because they legalize marijuana or decriminalize marijuana in the state of Michigan, it doesn't mean I can go smoking it. I can still get fired by my own.
That was the worst explaining it to someone, because remember, before Michigan did it, Ferndale decriminalized it, and I said, in Ferndale, if you get pulled over by an Oakland County sheriff like I did, and you have weed, which I didn't, but I had something else.
Ken, was that when I was behind you?
I think so. We're going from Luna to Orchid.
Yep, that's you and Martin.
Me and Martin got pulled over. Everything we wound up. Mind you, I'm at that time like 350. Martin's like 6'6", and we're sitting in the back of a police car together. None of us are handcuffed, and it's just the craziest fucking thing ever. But again, as Dan said, where your constitutional rights end is at the business of a private property, and they if you don't have the right dress code, they can deny you. If there are legal reasons for them to deny you. Like I went to some fucking club over in Greektown, and I had jeans on, and I'm like, all right,
yeah, floods.
You can't come in here. I'm like, all right.
Okay.
Text to the person, sorry.
Oh, I think I know which club you're talking about.
I can't go into the club you're in. I'm gonna go to the casino now.
I'll go to the bar. I'll go to Firebird Tavern. Let's go there.
Go to Firebird. Hell yeah.
I
know they'll serve me there.
There's a lot of misinformation on the internet. Go on, Wendy.
I want to point out too that I've seen a lot of people posting in the last couple of days things negative towards the bar and brewery owners, and that is not where the problem lies. Those people who open their businesses are putting things into place. It's the patrons that are going there that are refusing to wear masks and refusing to social distance and push it up on people in line and things like that. Those are the people that are making.
We saw Ascension show up on Worst Beer Blog, and when I see a Michigan brewery show up on there, I'm like, oh no. And like for Ascension too, like Adam over there does great work and is very, very, very quiet about the things that he does. And when I saw Ascension, I'm like, what the fuck is Ascension doing on Worst Beer Blog? But it wasn't Worst Beer Blog. It wasn't Ascension that they were talking about. It was this commenter who left this bad review. And I've seen so many of these bad reviews on Untapped, on Yelp, not on those pages, but on Facebook, people sharing it. And one of the big things too is that there are a lot of breweries who are worried. Like there was a brewery who a person turned 21 a week ago, and they denied it because that person's ID was expired. And yes, Whitmer has allowed for IDs that have expired up until a certain point to be able to be extended to July 31st. I think she just extended it even further, but that's beside the point. But when you misserve one person, it's one strike, and then the second you're fucking done. So you can either serve that person or not. And, as much as that person had every right to serve that, because he could be like that, his leg to stand on is that, hey, based on Whitmer's executive order, based on this, I can accept your ID. But in the same token, if the MLCC is like, well, we don't see it that way, you're fucked. Like, you can't fight that. And do you want to go fight that in court against the MLCC?
And it's funny, I see a lot of that. People are like, just don't listen to them. We're talking about like bars, like saying that they have to close down or close, the indoor of whatever they're doing. And people are like, just ignore them. They can't do that to you. It's like, well, we're not going to fight the MLCC. It's like lose our license. Like, that's stupid.
Yeah, that's
like,
the thing is that you're just shut down versus you're shut down forever.
Yeah,
and
those are the difference.
Those are the two things. I know this was a weird news segment. I got a fun game plan. I got a fun game plan for segment 3. We're gonna take a short break, about 5 to 6 minutes. So it's 8:30 Eastern. Guys, you can watch us facebook.com/betterondraft. If you do not have Facebook, you could download the Hot Mic app, HOTMIC. Use the code BOD. It's free to use. There's no ads or spam or anything like that. It's just for those who have been lucky enough to quit Facebook. I'm hoping one day I can figure out a way to manage all of this stuff while quitting Facebook. But until then, here I am getting zucked. We will be right back with the Better on Draft podcast.
Say anything, Cusack, no news, let's do that, cause that's good. Who's that? How can I know John Cusack? You whack. Say, how can I know John Cusack? You whack.
You can catch me at the grocery store hosiery aisle, over my shoulder, smiles and chattering, trying to find the pads with wings, the right brand, the rice brand, brandishing the nicest price tag. Just make sure it's organic, gluten-free, and comes from Iceland. More in common with Streisand and Seinfeld, the most who rhyme well. More comfortable in delis and wine cellars and at the shelter. Eat smelting gefilte with Sarah Michelle Gellar's assistants. All my relatives distant, always felt like the misfit. Now I miss shit, like eating Bisquick and Count Chocula. Been having super high cholesterol since colostrum. My intelligence, the benefit of my genetics, but the cost of them is feeling I'll be accosted in a Holocaust every autumn. Official stories never bought them. Swimming in white water with Hillary Rodham while Bill went with Sodom to Nolan Richardson's office. Watching Corliss Williamson jogging in hog heaven. Augment the nog head trip with nuggets and chocolate. Cogswell Cogs, Gracely Boggs, Spacely Sprockets. With only change in our pockets, it only changes in pockets. Gentrification, the pain and the coccyx. The coxswain is intoxicated, headed straight for the rocks. Rocks is straight, it still blocks the concentration. Constellation at the top of the Pontchartrain. Who could really say, kid?
Yo, I don't know. Who could really say, kid?
I say anything, Cusack, no news, let's do that, cause that's good. Who's that? How can I know John Cusack? You whack. Say, how can I know John Cusack? Yeah. It's that Kurt Cobain, he did it for the corny love. So it's fuck, so we scoring drugs out the front door of clubs, of which we might see a portion of large, extra large, cause I'm sorta chub. I'm giving y'all raised hands more to touch. Somebody's in the kitchen with the Dinosaur, order up. I'm trying to break down these borders before I shuffle off this mortal clutch. Wifey supports, I guess she don't think we boring up. Foreign order, foreign rum imported for us for a clutch. We don't use a fourth of the fortune that's afforded us, at least we know that. Growth rap, focus on the whole map. Global view like I was a part of that Apollo program. Not a Rollo throwback, got couple ton of old hands. You never watch your raps at your bed. I told your ass, I wanna hold hands, whatever. Slow dance or something. Hold hands while I smartphone low maps, like we don't know they low jacks. Old snap broken, envelope drop like Bilbo's token. Fuck 'em open, now robe exposing no skin. Gross point blank stare, going over old shit.
I say anything.
Yeah.
No news. That's good. That's good. How you not know John Cusack?
Yo.
You whack. How you not know? You whack.
I say anything, Cusack, no news, let's do that, let's do that, let's do that. How can I know John Cusack? You whack. Say, how can I know John Cusack?
You whack.
Say anything, Cusack, no news, let's do that, cause that's good. Who's that? How can I know John Cusack? You whack. Say, how can I know John Cusack?
Okay, buddy. I was just trying to cheer us up, so go ahead. Put on some old sad bastard music, see if I can. I don't want to hear old sad bastard music, Barry. I just want something I can ignore. Here's the thing. I made that tape special for today My special Monday morning tape for you. Special.
It's fucking Monday afternoon. You should get out of bed earlier.
Come on, dude. Play it. Don't you want to hear what's next?
But welcome back, Better on Draft 225. I appreciate you all joining us. So segment 3 has always been 5 questions with Matt Bush. But this isn't the Matt Bush segment, but Matt Bush has joined us, and we're going to play a little bit of a game. There's not going to be any penalty, any winning, or anything like that if you lose.
I win.
Matt wins automatically.
I'm like the kid
So,
from Big Nicky.
I have Matt. You might want to talk a little louder. You're a little low. But with that in mind, so we were playing Guesspionage over on the Jackbox games, and there is actually a Guesspionage type game that is a card game that you can play.
Oh, geez.
So what's going to happen is that I am going to start going in a circle. We're going to go over. We're going to ask these questions. You're going to have to answer the question, and then the 2 people who did not answer the question is going to guess higher or lower. If both people guess incorrectly, the person who guessed the number is going to win the point. But whoever guesses correctly gets the point. So
Can I ask
if
a question?
you can ask a question.
Can we get you a long mic like Card Sharks? Because that's the genesis of this game.
Card Sharks.
A little like a little tall boy, like
Those like Bob Barker mics, and then you just flip cards higher or lower.
You mean Drew Carey?
No. Oh, wow. Don't you dare, Bob Eubanks. Card Sharks. Go to Crackle.
Yes, I know what Card Sharks is. I've been there before.
So download Crackle, Ken.
What we're going to do is we're going to start based on the camera that you see. If you're in the chat, obviously you can feel free to join, guess, try not to cheat. It'll make you feel better. But starting with my left on camera is Dan. Dan, you're going to guess. So this isn't a percentage. You're going to guess the number. And then Nick, Wendy, and Matt will be able to guess if it's higher or lower. Now, Dan, I'm going to give you an option. I don't know what this means on the card, so I can't help you. But you have an option of 1, 2, or 3. So you tell me 1, 2, or 3, and I'm going to read that question.
Okay, 3.
In what year was Harvard University founded?
Oh, geez.
No, this answer.
1895.
All right, so you guys can guess higher or lower. So we'll go with Nick.
I'm going to go lower.
Nick says lower. Wendy.
Lower.
Matt.
It's like 1653, I think. So I'm going to go way lower.
1636.
I'm way off.
Oh, dang.
I got 3 of the numbers right.
Everyone with Dan is going to get a point. Continuously going counterclockwise. Nicholas, you're going to give me a number 1, 2, or 3.
Let's go in the middle. Number 2.
Number 2. A rod is an old unit of instrument. How many inches in a rod?
5 1/4. McMurray's a piece of shit.
Oh my God.
Come on, Nick. This is right up your alley.
Yeah, okay. Let's go 24.
24. So we're going to keep going the counterclockwise. So Wendy, first.
I'm going to go lower.
Wendy says lower. Matt?
24 inches in a rod? Is that what Nick said?
Yes, that's what I
And
said.
they're always overestimating. I'm going lower as well.
All right. Matt says lower. Dan?
I'll go higher.
Dan says higher. The correct answer, 198 inches in a rod.
198?
We are in a 4-way tie after 2 questions. Wendy, it is your turn. I need you to give me the answers.
What are you
1, 2, or 3.
measuring with that?
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
Wendy says 1. On average, how many times will a human being blink in the course of a year?
Oh, Jesus
Christ.
Course of a year.
Course
God.
of a year.
I am horrible at math.
I'll give you 20 seconds to do some mental math on that to try to help you out.
3,650 times.
3,650 times. No. All right, Matt. That was my terrible impression of Rent.
Just because I've seen The Office in the season 7, and they said 18 million moments at The Office, I'm gonna go way higher. I'm gonna go like 270 million minutes times.
Matt says higher. Dan.
Higher.
Higher. Nick.
I'm going to go lower.
The correct answer is higher at 6,205,000 times. So that is
Jeez.
1 point for Dan, 1 point for Nick, and nobody else. Matt, to finish
I got
out.
a point. I get a
No,
point.
Matt got the point. I didn't
Matt got the point. I did put Matt on the points. You guys can see it on the video. Matt's got 2 with the Excel spreadsheet.
So me and Dan
I'm,
are tied, right?
Like I'm Kelly Rowland trying to text Nelly in dilemma. You and Matt are tied, or Matt and Nick, or Matt and Dan. Jesus fuck,
Yeah.
are tied.
Good luck, Big Machine.
Oh yeah.
Matt, to end round
got?
1, how many? 1, 2, or 3? I need a number.
Okay. I'm up number 1 stunner.
All right. Human beings can hear sounds pitched as low as 20 hertz. What is the highest we can hear in hertz?
It's not Zach Ertz, right?
No, it is not Zach Ertz.
I'm gonna go 69.
Okay. Dan.
I'll say higher.
Nick.
I actually just went for a hearing test. Higher.
Wendy.
I'm also going to say higher.
All right. Everyone gets a point. I'm going to give you an opportunity to get a point if you can get within 1,000. Matt, guess again.
Within 1,000?
Yeah.
1,000 decibels?
No, hertz.
Hertz. Oh, frequency.
16,290.
All right. You still did not win. The correct answer is 20,000 hertz.
What?
So I gave you an opportunity. Right now, the current leader is Dan.
Oh, what's up?
Everyone else is at 2. We're gonna go one more round. I see.
Very good. Very good.
Tito is playing. He said higher on the hertz, higher on the blink. So he's doing pretty good in the chat over there. Dan, I need a 1, 2, or 3 from you.
Let's go 3.
3. In what year did the Crimean War begin?
Ooh,
Which one?
2004.
Nicholas.
You're talking about like the most recent Crimean War?
It just
Like the
says
original-
Crimean War.
Wait, hold on. Roll that back. Hold on.
Yeah.
Are we talking the original or the recent with the Soviet Union?
Yeah, not
Or with
the Putin
Russia?
one.
Hold
is it
on,
the Putin
yeah.
one, or is it the like
During the 1800s.
This game was made in 2014, and I'm going to give you the heads up that if you say the 2000s, you're wrong.
Okay, let me redo this because the original Crimean War, there's a song from Iron Maiden about this called "The Trooper." We're gonna say 1852.
All right, Nicholas, higher or lower?
I don't think it's gonna. If I had to say it's higher, it's not gonna be that much higher. I'm guessing, by the way, higher.
Nick says higher. Wendy.
I kind of want to say same because he's got some info to back it up, but I'm going to go lower.
Wendy says lower.
Dan's right. I'm willing to bet.
Who's in the phone booth?
What?
Who's Nick's in the phone booth?
Nick,
No,
yeah,
I'm
He's
in
in
the phone
jail.
booth. I'm
He's
in
at the
jail.
county jail.
He's in a bathroom in Battle Creek.
He's got a rest stop. The hole is slow right now.
I'd like to push with Dan. I'd like to push.
You can
Is that
push
even
if
an
you
option?
want. Yeah, it is an option. Do you want to take it back?
Okay, is lower like before his date?
Lower would be
I think
before
it's just a year.
1852.
Okay, I'm gonna go like yes, like super low, like 625.
Wait,
Wait.
what's that even mean?
Like
I think it's-
625 AT, like when like the
Like, all right, so he's saying earlier, so lower.
All right, so Wendy said lower, Matt said lower. You guys are fucking me up. Nick said higher. The correct answer, 1854.
Oh,
Oh,
years off.
no.
Nick swinging right there. Nick, you're going to be up right now.
All right.
It's
Tito
not much
got
higher.
it right, higher on the Crimean War. I need a 1, 2, or 3 from you, Nick.
We'll do number 1.
Number 1. What percentage of babies are born on their actual due date?
Knowing my luck, my baby will come out probably probably before. So I'm gonna say Percentage.
Yep, this is a percentage, 0 to 100.
I'm gonna say it's gonna be low. I'm gonna say it's about 9%.
So Nick, are you saying the gestation is going to be shorter?
Can we kick him out, please?
I mean, you are the one that
It's a little bit harder to do this when you're not doing this when you're at a computer.
I'm just asking for clarification.
All right, so
game.
Nick says 9%.
Say
Wendy,
9%.
higher or lower?
I am going to say higher, especially because now we're doing more C-sections and they're scheduling dates.
All right, Matt.
I think the number is 12%. So I'm going to go higher as well.
All right, Dan.
Higher.
Dan says higher. Everyone says higher. The correct answer is 4%.
Damn.
Therefore, Nick gets a point for everyone fucking up.
Yeah. All right.
Which puts him into the lead, actually.
Look at you, Nick. Straight at the fucking penitentiary.
Wendy,
those,
Wendy, I need
man.
a 1, 2, or 3 from you.
I'm going to go with 3 this time.
All right. And what year did the Bay of Pigs invasion take place?
I know this answer.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, that was... Oh, God.
It was not, oh God.
I'm going to say
It might have been.
1965.
1965, Matt.
1959, way lower.
Matt says 59.
Actually, no, it would have been 62 because Kennedy was elected. So yeah, way lower. But still before 65 because Kennedy died in 63.
You're just helping
So-
everyone else.
Thanks,
are.
Matt.
Wendy does not get any points for this. Unless you're all
Unless we're
wrong.
all wrong.
Or
So-
I'm just lying to everybody. I could be lying to everybody.
I mean, you could be, but Dan.
69, was that LBJ? Like,
No, I said 65.
She said
Oh,
65.
65.
Matt said
would-
59 and then said 62. Wait, what did
Yeah,
you say?
Okay, it's lower.
Hold on.
It's lower.
Matt, what did
I'm
you
always off by a couple years, at
So,
least.
okay, Kennedy died the same day the Lions got bought by the Fords, which is November 22nd of 63. The Bay of Pigs happened under Kennedy.
Why are you? Hold on, everyone hasn't guessed yet. So
All right.
Shut up.
I just threw out, is that LGB era in 65?
LGB.
It could be LGBTQ
LBJ,
as well.
yeah.
BJ, I
thank you.
knew what you meant.
LBJ, yeah.
It happened in the 60s.
I want to hear about the LGB.
The LGB, yeah.
LGB.
LBJ here.
All right. Everyone says lower. Matt
I'm going
basically
lower.
gave everyone. Sorry, Wendy.
I know.
Matt, 1, 2, or
I'm always
3
off
to
by
finish
2
round
years.
2.
It's Wendy time.
Dose.
Dose.
2
Okay.
fingers in the air.
What
tail
percent
up, lay
of the
down.
total U.S. land area does the state of Texas make up?
What percentage of total
U.S.
land area?
land area does the state of Texas make up? This goes to 0.1%.
That's a good question.
I'm going to go 9.8%.
9.8%. Dan, higher or lower?
Jeez. You said 9.8?
Yep.
Alaska is by far our biggest. I'm going to go higher.
Dan says higher. Nicholas?
I'm gonna go higher as well.
Nicholas says higher. Wendy?
I'm also going to go higher.
You are
Give me
going to go
7.
higher. The correct answer is 7.4, meaning
Oh,
Matt
man.
Wow.
is going to get this one. We're going to go one more round and then a tiebreaker if
My Matt
necessary.
slide.
Can we get a scoreboard real quick?
Scoreboard in the lead, Nicholas with 5. In second place, a tie, Dan with 4 and Matt with 4 and Wendy
Hang in there.
at 2. That's okay.
Don't call it a comeback. It can happen.
I mean, you just need to
Not
get
often,
every
but-
answer right. Dan, 1, 2, or 3?
1.
1. How many full-length films did Alfred Hitchcock direct?
Oh, Jesus.
Wow.
Oh, jeez. I have no clue.
Neither do I.
Full-length feature films.
That's what the card says. How many
Never mind,
full-length feature
never mind
films
his hourly program.
did Alfred
I-
Hitchcock direct?
Let's go.
Yeah, that
Let's
doesn't
go.
count the hourly program.
Yeah.
Let's go 30.
30. Nicholas, higher or lower?
Go lower.
Nicholas says lower. Wendy.
I too say lower.
Wendy says lower. Matt Bush.
I think the answer is around 13, so I'm going to go lower as well.
Well, Dan's going to sneak in a point here. The correct answer, 58.
Oh, Jesus.
Jeez.
They didn't say if they were released for viewing or not.
It just said, how many full-length films did Alfred Hitchcock direct? That is the only words of that sentence. Nicholas,
That's
1, 2, or
nuts.
3?
I'll go 3 for the final round.
All right. In what year was the first broadcast of the Ed Sullivan Show?
First year of the Ed Sullivan Show. Broadcast. 19.
Wrong.
Shut up. 1958.
All right, Wendy, higher or lower?
Lower.
Wendy says lower. Matt Bush.
So the Beatles played on the Ed Sullivan Show in I think it was 63, and it had been a show for 10 years at that point. So I think I'm going to go lower.
All right. Nick, what was your answer? 58?
I said 58.
Wendy says higher. Matt says lower. Dan.
No, I said lower.
Wendy says lower.
Wendy said
sorry.
lower.
I said lower.
You said 58, Nick?
58 is the number.
Yeah, I said
Wendy says
58.
lower.
1958.
Matt, you said lower?
Yeah, I think it's 42.
I'm
actually.
going to say lower.
All three of you are correct. So Wendy at 3, Dan at 6, and
Ooh, I'm
Matt
at
at
3
5.
points.
Well, what was the first year of his broadcast?
1948.
Oh, damn, that long ago?
All right. Well, Matt, if you get this right and force everyone to be wrong, you will tie with Dan and go into a tiebreaker. If everyone gets it wrong, you will tie with Dan and go into a tiebreaker. Nick, you are currently at 5. If Dan gets it wrong and you get it right, you'll go into a tiebreaker. So right now, Dan, you're sitting pretty.
Nice.
Matt, 1, 2, or
Guarantee
3?
at least a tiebreaker.
Back to number 1. As Brian McKnight said, let's go back to 1.
All right. How old was Jodie Foster when she was nominated for a Best Supporting Actress Academy Award for Taxi Driver?
If I get on the nose, do I get points?
Yeah, because obviously nobody can get it right or wrong. Or nobody can get it right. How
I'm between
old
two numbers.
was Jodie Foster when she was nominated for a Best Supporting Actress Academy Award for Taxi Driver? Nick, we hear your...
We're going to go as many inches as Nick is tall, 14.
Matt says 14. Nick flips him off. Dan, higher or lower than 14 years of age for Jodie Foster?
Yeah, it's lower.
Dan says lower. Nick.
We test all of them. I have to go opposite of what Dan said, because otherwise he gets the point and I don't get it. So I have to go opposite of Dan, higher.
Dan says higher than 14. Wendy for a point.
I believe it is lower.
Lower. Dan and Wendy get a point.
How old was this girl?
Was she 11?
The correct age is 13.
Oh, come!
The lower.
You know what? We can do a quick lightning round just because we got about 4 minutes left before we get to 9. Tito Huffman, thank you so much for playing in the chat. We appreciate you so much. You could join us, facebook.com/betterondraft. Of course, on Hot Mic, use the code BOD. If you're not on Facebook, we want to have you still listen to us. So real quick, so this is going to be speed round. I'm not going to be fucking around asking for you to make explanations or anything like that. Dan, 1, 2, or 3?
3.
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
In what year was the first broadcast of the Flintstones?
Oh, Jesus. I have 62.
1962, I assume you're saying. Nicholas, higher
Yeah.
or lower? Nick says higher. Wendy?
Higher.
Wendy says higher. Matt says lower. Matt is going to get the lone point there. It is 1960. Nicholas, 1, 2, or 3?
2.
2. According to tradition, how much did Peter Minuit, M-I-N-U-I-T, Minute, buy the island of Manhattan for in 1626 in dollars? So not in today's dollars, just in dollars.
Yeah, I have no clue. $1.5 million.
$1.5 million. Wendy.
Lower.
Matt says lower. Dan.
Lower.
Correct. The
350.
answer is 24.
350.
I was going to say 84, so
The correct
Never
answer
mind.
is just $24. Wendy, 1, 2, or 3?
1.
Wendy says 1. As of 2012, what percentage of Americans drank 1 glass of milk per day? I want a solid number percentage.
49.
Matt says lower. Dan.
Lower.
Everybody says lower. Wendy said 20 or 49. The
24.
Correct answer is 22. Well, nobody can catch Dan, so apparently Dan is the fucking intellect of higher or lower. But I guess for second place, we got Matt Bush, currently with 7. So if Nick and Wendy can catch up, maybe we'll have a little tiebreaker. How
We'll
tall? Or sorry, Matt, 1, 2, or 3?
Uno.
Okay.
We're just going to stick with number 1.
How tall is Angel Falls in Venezuela, the world's tallest waterfall in feet?
Socialism number is like 369 feet.
Dan, higher or lower? You're still playing.
Higher.
Higher. Nick says higher. Wendy.
Higher.
Well, Wendy has 7. Dan has 10. Nick has 7. That means we have a 3-way tie for second place. The correct answer, Matthew, is 3,212. All right,
with a good time.
So I'm going to have Dan pick 1, 2, or 3 to ask the question. It is going to be the closest yes you can go over between the 3 of you for second place.
2.
All right. How many days does it take for Mercury to revolve around the sun? We are going to go clockwise still, or counterclockwise. And this is in hundredths of days. That's the number they gave me, is in hundredths of days. So Nick says first the number.
86.25.
All right, Wendy.
Wait, I thought it was hundreds of days. There's that percentage.
Hundredths of days.
Hundreds.
So period and 2 decimal points.
2 decimal points off.
I told you I am not good at math. So I would say 49.8.
All right. She's going with 49.80. Matthew.
So I actually know the answer here. And I know it's 88 days, but I don't know what the decimal is. So I'm going to say 88.69 just to be funny.
God damn it. So that is Matt. You are going to be the closest.
Aww.
The correct answer is 87.97.
Oh, come on! 88 days.
You can see it right there.
I am the smartest man alive.
Just take a picture with your phone.
You're the second smartest man. This was for second place because Dan beat the shit out of all of you in this game. So I'm gonna
I
set
didn't know
those.
that answer, Matt. So you're good.
I'm gonna set those cards aside, guys. BetterOnDraft.com. Facebook.com/BetterOnDraft. BetterOnDraft on Instagram, Twitter, Bod Podcast on Untapped. Definitely check us out on everything. Hot Mic, use the code BOD to watch us live at 7 p.m. Eastern. Of course, you can watch us live 7 p.m. Eastern. Facebook.com/BetterOnDraft. Next week, we will be with Secret Hopper to hang out. Nick is hanging out with his bush. That's perfectly fine. I'm
Harry over there for sure.
I'm going with the third can of the white chocolate blonde from Grand Armory. I am happy, even though the can label is not like even, so it just kind of bothers me because it just doesn't look perfect because it goes lower and then higher. And
some low quality shit there.
They're over by Outside, aren't they?
What's that?
Grand Armory. They're over in South Haven by Outside, right?
Yes.
Because I went there when we went to 424. I shot up to the South Haven and went to outside in Grand Armory, while you and Julia were at Coppercraft.
Yeah,
And
we went to a lot of places that day for sure. We hit Michigan Brewing Works, the Blair Witch Brewery that I always like to reference. Ellison, Coppercraft, Big Lake, Brewery 424 is where we ended the night. New Holland.
I think Motor City
Can't
Brewer
wait till
or
we can get
Michigan
back
Brewer
out
should
there.
be on the bingo card. We think we can get Keto off the bingo card and add Michigan Beer Works onto it where Keto used to be, because you literally talk about Bobby Mason every day.
What's funny is that I realized me saying in regards to today, and Bill Carney, our map editor, referenced it that he gets drunk every time I say in regards to on the show.
Oh,
And- that's my but for sure. Guys, that's gonna do it. Better on Draft podcast. You know what, Wendy? Do you think you could take Rob's spot for the ending?
Oh
yeah, I can
I'm
totally
ready.
do that.
No matter what you think of your beer, we think it's.
Hold my blunt.
I wanted her to say peace, and I forgot about that.
Oh, sorry.
That was amazing.
Better on
My
Draft.
blunt thing is kind of
Have a
good.
good night.
Peace.
Peace.
Are we gonna do something else now?